Gang. Welcome, guys, to episode 5 of our 3-part series. Oh, that's so confusing. Welcome to episode 5 of our podcast, 3 Losers in a Church. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are on part 2 of our 3-part series of our faith stories. So, as Tyler talked about last time, we are sharing about our faith stories. So, we can show you guys, the viewers, who we are, kind of how we came to faith, or how we solidified our faith, and for us as friends to also get to know a little bit more about each other. So, English is hard.
I wasn't going to say.
But today we are going to be having Chris Hort share his faith story. So, Chris Hort, take it away.
Yes, thank you. This is the stomach cramps edition of this podcast. I feel like that's important for everyone to know, is that I have really bad stomach cramps right now, and I'm very nauseous.
Well, just in case you were not aware of that fact.
It's unrelated to anything. It's just it's a circumstance that I'm in. So we were trying to come up with like little titles for our faith stories, and I think mine would probably be something along the lines of identity crisis. I think a lot of my faith story involves me trying to like find my identity as a person, not realizing it at the time. Like a lot of it's in retrospect, but I don't know. The first time I really remember thinking anything about my identity as a person was like my junior year of high school. Also, which I think yours was too.
So weird.
That's interesting. Yeah, but like I grew up in a Christian home, so like the idea of God or Christianity was never foreign to me. But we stopped going to church when I was a kid. I guess I don't remember why. Some problem with the pastor or church, the way they were doing something. I don't know. But so I grew up believing in God, that I was a Christian, but without going to church or really knowing anything about my own faith. Also, so. When I was a junior, I was in an English class, and we started reading The Scarlet Letter, like everyone does in high school, basically. And it's weird, because we read a lot of books, and I didn't read them, because I was a lazy student. But that one, for some reason, stuck with me, and we watched the movie, too, and the book talks about, spoiler alert,
What?
What?
Did you have Spark Notes back then?
They existed, I didn't use them. But yeah, the whole story, she committed adultery, she has to publicly be shamed for doing that, blah, blah, blah. But that, I don't know, for some reason that concept, sat with me really heavily about, who's really responsible for, calling us out on our sins. Or, not even the sins, but, if we do something wrong, is it, that whole concept of, should we be shaming people? Should we be exposing ourselves and have to pay a consequence, or blah blah blah? And so I just started, I don't know, it really messed me up for some reason, which is weird, because it caught me off guard. And I think it was around that time that my dad, there was a bookstore going out of sale when those existed, and so there's a Bible on sale, and he bought me one. He's like, "Would you read this?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally," and I think I didn't read it for a while, honestly. And then for some reason, for no real reason, I just started reading it one day. I think I just wanted to kind of know what was going on. I started with the Gospels. I was like, it seems like a good place to start. And I think at that point, I was basically just finding my identity in acting out and being a contrarian, arguing with people for the sake of arguing. I was complaining about things. I was just looking for reasons to be angry. Typical. I always mention, I'm the kind of person who would go to prom and, complain about the music, Everyone else is just having a good time dancing and hanging out with their friends. I'd be sitting talking about how stupid prom is as a concept.
So you show up at prom, or you wouldn't even be at prom?
Yeah, no, I went to 4 proms, and I don't know how.
I went to 1.
0.
I'd go, and then I'd be like, man, all this music is bad, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I guess I kind of still do that today, but it's a different story. But anyway, yeah, that was me, I would do things just to be, I had sideburns, just, who has sideburns?
Mutton chops.
I had
mutton chops, right?
Yeah.
How low did they go?
They started getting pretty low. It was partially because I couldn't grow a full beard, but partially just because, why not, And, part of it's also I like weird things. I'm wearing this hat, but I just... Yeah, that was partially just I'm going to be different and have sideburns. Which I think people did in the 60s.
Who's done that in recent history?
This is still in junior year?
Yeah, and then when into my senior photo, I have sideburns and a fedora. So, yeah.
Real better.
Yeah, I'm
Fat
not.
W.
It's not good.
Nothing here. Nothing here.
Nope, just sideburns and a fedora. It's not good.
I don't know what you look like without facial hair.
Yeah, it's not good. I'll show you some pictures. But anyway, fast forward to college. Not fast forward much, but then I think in college, I went to college for music performance, and that's when I really started to lock in my identity as a musician. Like, I was like, the music program is pretty, and you get pretty immersed in it. I guess it's immersive. That's the word. You get pretty immersed in it, and I was in marching band, and like I've always just loved music. So like I was taking like 20 credits a semester, constantly learning music theory, history, playing the clarinet, tuba, talking to musicians, like being around musicians, like just constantly immersed in it. So like I just started to tell people like I am a musician, you know, like that's who I am, that's blah blah blah, and that basically continued through all of college. And the more I practiced, the more I started to take it seriously, the more that became like, this is who I am. I am a musician. Like you know, and
Your name is in the FAC practice rooms. I found it.
yeah, that was my friend. Well, I won't say her name, but that was my friend. She just carved my name for some reason. I don't know why.
I think I sent you a photo that same exact day.
Yeah.
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard from her in years. If you're listening, text me. Her number's changed like 10 times, so I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so,
Man.
yeah, and like, I don't know how, this might be true for other degree tracks, but like, I know in the music program, it's like, I have private lessons once a week. I was involved in a total of like 8 large ensembles, chamber groups. I was practicing like 3 hours a day, you know, and so like, it's a lot of self-critiquing, a lot of, at a certain point it becomes like nihilism, you know, everyone's walking around the department just miserable. It's a very toxic environment actually, and so I think that started to weigh on me a lot, because like, I'm never good enough. There's so like, if I'm the best clarinet player at UMass, which I wasn't, but if I am, like, I'm still like nowhere near the worst player at Berkeley or Juilliard or like, you know, that kind of thing, and like, just a lot of dread and narcissism mixed with negativity, a lot of ends there. But yeah, and so I think that's, and at the same time, it's an important detail, I was dating a girl for all of college, and at the beginning of the relationship I told her I was a Christian, and like she would occasionally ask me questions about it, and I would just be like, I don't know the answer to that, like, at all, you know. I don't know really the first thing about my faith. We almost broke up my sophomore year, and a lot of that had to do with me like vastly misunderstanding my faith and not communicating it very well to her. And we didn't break up, but I think that's when God really started to like pull on me, and like, again, for no apparent reason, in retrospect it's the Holy Spirit, but like for no apparent reason I started feeling compelled to like learn more about my own faith, more about God, about what I was really saying I believed in. And that all kind of led up to my senior year when my apartment burned down, which is you know, fun story. I thought I've told this story a million times, and I guess there's still people that haven't heard it. But
I haven't even heard it in that much detail. Like, I know a little bit about it, but
oh really? Yeah, the short story is like my apartment burned down.
You lived over at Greenway too, right?
Rolling Green. Yeah.
Rolling Green. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, like, there's a fire in the 202. I was in 197. The fire like stopped at 197. And like destroyed the unit, but like I got all my stuff back for the most part, besides clothes, and like we got out alive, and you know.
Oh, so you were in the apartment when it actually caught fire?
Yeah, it was like 4 a.m.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I was living with my girlfriend, not in the same room, but it was like me and a dude, and then her and a chick in another room. Sorry, woman in another room. And so like it was 4 a.m. and we were like sitting in my roommate's car, just freezing, watching our place burn down, and it was kind of surreal. And so, I don't know, and shortly after that, my friend invited me to church, who is actually a Catholic and doesn't go to a Baptist church anymore, but for some reason he invited me to FBC. And I was just like, yeah, I want to go. Like, I had been having questions, and like I was obviously on this very emotional high from losing my apartment and everything, so I started going. And then my girlfriend was not a Christian, and like got really freaked out when I started going, and she started coming with me, and like the first couple of times she was like, this is really weird, you know. but she kept coming for whatever reason. And like I was kind of in and out because I was graduating and like I started working overnights at a gas station. I was like a wreck. And that's once I graduated, I started like finding my identity less in music, I think, and that's when I started to really find my identity like in this relationship with my girlfriend, like to an unhealthy extent, I think. We had been together for like 4 or 5 years at that point, and like we had talked about getting married. We spent a lot of time together. We knew pretty much everything about each other, and it just seemed like the logical next thing. But we could never take that step, and like I don't know. I didn't notice it at the time, but we were fighting a lot too. So like it was getting kind of bad. And like looking back, it's obvious. Obviously, looking back.
I would have just gone with it.
Yeah. If you hadn't made that face, I would have been like, yeah. English.
English is hard.
It is.
Yeah, looking back, there's a lot of fighting, a lot of red flags, and trust issues, which is eventually what led to our breakup. And so, like, I had been finding my identity in this relationship, and all of a sudden it wasn't there.
Yeah, I know.
And, like, that's when I had to come to terms with a lot of things. Like, first of all, my lack of understanding of God. Because I was really, like, well, I also had to come to terms with, like, my own brokenness. Like, what we had done to one another, like, that it was a real messy breakup. A lot of bad things, and I had to come to terms with that. Like, I didn't realize I was capable of things like that, like of hurting somebody in that capacity, and not even intentionally, and then dealing with like the own hurt I was feeling, and so like that's when I started to realize I didn't really understand my relationship with God either, because like I was totally unwilling to forgive myself. I think I learned to forgive her, but I was totally like oh, I'm so much worse. I'm trash. I'm just garbage, I felt miserable. I was never diagnosed with depression, but I think I was probably depressed for a while. I don't like to just throw that word around, but like I was in a bad place. And so I think that's probably the last point of finding my identity in something other than Christ. And I was finding my identity in my mistakes and my guilt at that point, which is where it got really bad, because I think the other 3 things are like good in some capacity, like music and relationship and even challenging the status quo to some extent are like good things that I was using wrongly, incorrectly. And then like this one, like this was just me straight up like dumping on myself and like viewing myself in the worst light possible, even when other people weren't, and that lasted for like quite a while. But I kept going to church and started developing relationships with people, and like I started to meet you guys at one point. The big game changer was when I was invited to Hub, to our youth group, by one of the students actually, and that kind of set me off on a totally different trajectory, completely. And like that's when I really started to like my relationship with God started changing. I started to understand that like I am forgiven. Like it doesn't make what I did right, but like I'm forgiven, I'm loved, I'm not trash. Like, I have value as a human being. Like I got baptized at some point in that mess. And yeah, I think I still struggled for a long time with the self-deprecation, depression and all that, but like that's when I started to really say like, oh man, I have an identity in God, and something that I can't even mess up. I mean, I can mess it up, but like it can't be taken away from me, like I have this identity that's so much better than anything else I've been trying to find myself in. And like I can still enjoy music. I still love music to this day, and like I still, love, well, that sounds weird if I say I love women. I love the idea of being in a relationship. I still, I don't know. In this context, it sounded weird. It's like, yeah, right.
Sorry, I'm just like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but now it's like I feel like I'm rooted in the right place with those things, Like,
okay.
Even like coming out of that toxic music environment, like I joined the orchestra at the church, and like the people were so welcoming and inviting, and they're like, oh, you should play a solo, like we can do this. Well, and it was just like using the music to worship God, for a better purpose, instead of competing with other people for nothing, and just every time I mess up a note, just being hard on myself. So
it's so interesting that you say that. like how the things that were so negative in your life now are being flipped for the Lord, right? Like
Yeah.
worship with music, and then when you found your identity in like self-deprecating yourself instead of what you used as like your weakness, then it eventually became like a strength for you to like guide the youth as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like that's happened a lot where like I don't know how much I've changed personality wise or like interest wise, but those things are being used in a much healthier, God glorifying way, hopefully.
For sure.
You'd like to think so at least. Yeah. That kinda leads me to where I am now, you know.
You're starting seminary in September.
I am. I guess I did a really poor job of communicating that to people. Cause like it's weird cause like I only hear myself saying it 100 times, but it's always to like certain group, like the choir heard it.
Yeah.
And like certain friends heard it. But then I still have people like today being like, "You're going to seminary?" Like literally today.
Shout out to Janie who
Yeah.
said I didn't know Chris was going to seminary after we dropped episode 1, so now you guys can get a bit of a timeline of when we were doing things.
How slowly we're uploading our videos.
Bit by bit.
Yeah.
Partially my fault as the editor. Anywho, hi.
Hey there.
Hey there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my identity crisis in a nutshell.
It's interesting because I met you. Oh my gosh, how old am I now?
19.
4 years. Thank you.
You're not 20 yet.
I'm not.
No.
December. I'm 20 in December.
He's turning 20.
20, 20.
He's
now.
joining us.
I
I'm
met
almost
you.
departing.
Oh shit.
I want to say 4, maybe 5 years ago, because I'm going. Oh my gosh.
You're old.
Sometimes I forget the gap year happened. Honestly, I don't
Yeah.
know why. It's such a weird like time lapse. Anyways, but
Time skip.
yeah, it's anyways. But yeah, so I met you. Let's call it 5 because that might be a little much. I think it's 4, but we'll call it 5. And like you had just left your relationship. I think like I met you a couple months after that. I met you before you started coming down. So
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of time there.
Right.
Then you started attending FBC your certificate year, right? Your 5th year?
Yeah, it was like my last semester of my undergrad before I did the 5th year. Yeah.
Oh, so it was your senior year.
Yeah, like towards the end of my senior year.
Oh, okay. Then that would make a lot of sense. I thought you came. Okay, so my timeline is off. But yes, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I've seen you change a lot since then. Since it was like minivan, like Chris Hart.
Oh,
yeah,
minivan.
Minivan, Chris Hart, VBS, like one of the first times I actually really got to know you.
Oh, VBS.
Yeah.
I forgot I did VBS. Yeah. That was fun.
That was fun. That was a long time ago.
You also had super long hair, right? I
Yeah,
remember
super
like
long hair.
Yeah.
I can't remember untrimmed Chris.
Now I'm balding.
Should have just kept going with the hair, huh?
I know, right? Like I could do the man bun to cover up the bald spot, but nobody wants a man bun.
I mean, I am like the one person who's a huge. He looks. I mean,
He looks good with the man bun, I gotta say.
who's he?
Julio.
Oh, Julio.
Why?
does.
Okay.
He's the last person I saw with a man bun.
That is true.
Besides
That-
the guy at Dunkin' Donuts.
Duncan man did not look good with a minivan.
Julio's is like really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he also, I'm pretty sure he put something else in his hair
I
to
think
get that
so,
shit.
yeah.
I'm like, Julio teaches how to be a man.
He's been telling me to lose the hat from day one.
Really? Maybe that's what's making you.
I see him wearing a hat all the time. I don't.
Well, he just doesn't like this hat.
Oh, I'm seeing the logic.
It's
I
just
agree with
Well, that's
you on
also
that.
that's already in our logo. Like,
Right. So now I gotta wear it.
yeah. You're actually. Did you purposely wear it for this? Or
Maybe.
Dang. And a student asked you, you said, to join Hub.
Yeah. Just really humbling. Really cool.
He's a weirdo.
Yeah.
Now you're leading. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's official. Now, and probably when this video.
Yeah, can we say this? Is
once
that
the video is dropped, it'll be more official.
Because,
So-
yeah, this is
This
what
will be,
episode.
it'll be a while.
This will be episode 5, so that's
Yeah.
like a month from now.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, you'll be doing things
I'll be doing
when this is released.
Wow. Yeah.
From a man who didn't help with the youth group to a mere leader to now the director. That's, oh my god, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
sick.
It's just like also really showing, you know.
Yeah.
There's larger things at play here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, this is all God. Like
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, it goes back to that whole like inadequacy and like brokenness. Yeah, definitely.
Bruh.
I am inadequate and broken.
But then through that you are strengthened.
Right.
Man, you make me happy, man. You really do.
Dude.
Should we wrap this one up?
Yeah. I think so. Cool.
So that concludes part 2 of a 3-part series that we have. Next time you guys will get to hear Tyler's story. But
me.
yeah, so thank you guys for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed, and like and subscribe. Hit that notification button if you're on our YouTube page. Hopefully by now we are on either Spotify or some other
Apple
Podcasts. Definitely not SoundCloud. With SoundCloud you need stuff. But follow us on all our different social media platforms, and yeah, have a good one.
We out.
We out.
We out.
I don't know why I point that camera. It cannot see me, but I instinctively point to that camera.
That was